My name is Jamin Gurker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska. My mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate and providing you information in order to help you make the best decision for yourself that you possibly can. Think of me as your very first friend in Alaska. And today, what we're going to be talking about is what's going on in the real estate market, Eagle River. Now, we're going to be looking at the single family, a condo, and the multifamily sectors of this real estate market in this video. If you have any questions, comments, all that good stuff, feel free to drop them in the description, in the comment section down below. Give this video a like, share it everywhere. And so YouTube knows that this channel has got the stuff that everyone's looking for. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's video. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is what's going on in the single family residential market. And we see the first thing here is the inventory went from about 47 this time last year to 39 this year. That's right. We're actually seeing a decrease for the number of available homes on the market compared to what we saw the year before. Now, looking back though, we see that this is actually the trend we've seen for about the past 4 years, really. You know, went from 54 back in 2021, and then 55, and then 47, and now 39. So we're seeing that there is kind of a continued trend downward as far as the inventory goes, and that's really not been the trend across the board for the entire year here in Eagle River. You know, we have actually seen more inventory available on the market really going back since April. So this is the first time we're starting to see less available inventory than we saw the year before. So don't panic is really, I guess, what I'm trying to say. The next thing that we're going to look at is the number of single family properties that have actually sold on the market so far for the month of November. So what we see here is that this time last year, 31 properties sold for the month of November. This year, it's 42. Now, looking historically, we see that's actually within reason of what we would see prior to COVID. Usually it'd be anywhere from about 36 to about 44. So 42 is kind of right there in that ballpark of what we would expect, and that's with the decreased inventory for what we normally have. Now, the next thing we want to look at is what's going on as far as the average sold price year to date for properties here in Eagle River. And what we're seeing is that this time last year, the average sold price was about $496,000, and this year it's about $503,000, which means we've seen about approximately a 1.5% increase for the average sold price. Now, the only mystery to me is why it's only going up about 1.5% when we are selling more properties than we normally do, and we do have less inventory than we normally do. Like, I would expect to see the average sold price closer to about at least 4.5% is what I would expect. So I don't really think this is a softening up of prices or anything like that. I think this is probably more due to just the types of houses that are selling. I think you have people sitting on these larger homes that are, you know, the more expensive properties out there, and they've got the lower interest rates on them, and they're just saying, well, I'm not moving anywhere now. You know, I've got my 3.5–4% interest rate on this property, and you're going to have to burn me out of here. I'm not going anywhere. It's kind of the attitude I've gotten from a lot of sellers in these larger properties. So it looks on paper like the average sold price is only, you know, kind of sort of going up, and I think the average sold price has probably gone up more in the value. And it's just kind of comes down when you have a smaller sample size to the type of homes that are selling. And in this instance, I think it's the smaller homes that people are leaving instead of the larger ones, just because if you're in a larger home right now with a lower interest rate and then you try to sell it and go somewhere else, a lot of sellers are confronted with, man, I get way less home than what I have now, so I'll just stay put. And so for that reason, you know, maybe the case could be made that people on these properties are staying put longer than they normally would, and that's being reflected in our stats here. But would love to hear your thoughts on that. Feel free to drop them in the description section down below. Moving on, let's take a look at what's going on as far as the condo market here in Eagle River. So the condo market for the available inventory went from 8 this year to 12 this year. So that's a pretty nice sign. If you're looking at purchasing anytime in the near future, that does mean that the available inventory is starting to go up. Let's take a look and see historically what we would expect this time of year. And really prior to COVID, it's really anywhere from about 20 to about 39 condos available on the market. So still a long ways off from what we would expect to see as far as the available inventory, but that's still a win. We're still seeing an increase for the inventory, so let's just take our wins where we can get them. The next thing we see is that the condos that are already purchased went from 2 this time last year to 5 this year. So the number of condos that actually sold actually saw a pretty good little increase there. Normally, we would expect to see, anywhere from about 2 to 6 condos selling for the month of November, so 5 is actually right around the ballpark of what we would expect. Now, looking at the average sold price year to date, we see that this time last year, the average sold price was about $296,000, and now it's about $320,000, which means that we have seen about a approximately 8.5% increase for the average sold price for condos in Eagle River. Now, it would not surprise me that condos have gone up in Eagle River. Eagle River continues to be a very desirable area for people to live in. You can walk to a lot of places here, like has a great vibe and everything, as the kids say, and you've got all your shopping and everything you need, like right here in this small little community. So it's a very desirable area. All that being said, though, I don't think the average sold price for condos have necessarily gone up 8.5%. I think probably more what we're seeing is it's a smaller sample size, and we see that the types of condos that are selling now are probably the newly built condos. And I think those are coming onto the market and really starting to be felt in the stats now. So you're probably going to continue to see that going forward. So yes, the average sold price for condos are appreciating. I don't know if they're appreciating by 8.5%, but could be wrong. Let's just see what the future holds, though. All right, let's take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you do know that I host a monthly meetup for those of you who are currently living up here in Alaska. If that's something you'd like to get in on, where you have an opportunity to just meet people who've recently moved up here and just kind of socialize and do whatever activity it is that we're doing, like hiking, sledding, board games. These are really simple things we're doing. We're not, going for week-long backcountry hike or something like that. These are really simple things, just an opportunity for you to get a chance to kind of meet people and kind of start building those connections. If that's something you'd like to do, feel free to go check out the Facebook page down below. The one that says actually Facebook Meetup, because it's a completely separate group from my business Facebook page. Go ahead and jump in there, and you'll get all the updates about all the upcoming events that we'll be doing. Now, that being said, let's go and finish up today's video looking at the multifamily market. Now, looking at the multifamily market, we see that this time last year there were no multifamily properties available on the market, and this year there are 2. So there you go. We're seeing a proportionally huge increase for the number of multifamily properties that are available. Multifamily property is in Eagle River is kind of a low cap rate, which just means there's less return on your investment, but there's way less headache that goes along with it as well. So for that reason, it's a very desirable area if you're an investor. So people who do own multifamily here in Eagle River don't usually want to let it go unless, something happens and they just have to. All right, I am just going to read off what we have here as far as the average sold price year to date, and then we're going to kind of unpack it a little bit. We see that the average sold price this time last year was approximately $430,000, and this year it's about 1.028 million. Okay, so its average sold price is $1,028,000 for the average sold price year to date. Now, before everyone gets too excited, I've said this numerous times before, but the average sold price for multifamily does include everything from the little duplex all the way up to the commercial property, and really more of the commercial properties being sold here is what I'm seeing, because we see that back in August of this year, nearly a $5 million property sold. That threw the stats off. And then for the month of October, we see that there was about a $3 or $4 million property that sold as well. So we've got some pretty large pieces of real estate that are selling as far as multifamily goes, and that's kind of throwing all the stats off here. So yes, I do expect that we've seen a healthy appreciation across the board for multifamilies in Eagle River. I do not think it's gone up by 150%. I just do not expect that. That's a little wild, and I think it's going to be a couple of years here before we start average sold price starts to actually make sense in Eagle River. I might see if I can isolate those two sales from the data just to make sure that we get some accurate depiction on what the average sold price is, because that's going to make it absolutely not make sense at all for years and years to come. Now, let's go ahead and do the summary real quick here. If I'm a buyer and I'm looking at this market across the board right now, you know, I've got some hope. You know, the prices aren't shooting through the roof or anything to the point where it's just feel your stomach turn into stone. Like, that's good. So we do have kind of an improvement as far as that goes. And also the prices aren't dropping through the floor, because I know everyone thinks, oh, well, I'm going to get a great deal as soon as like the home values crash and all that. And realistically, we are just not seeing a crash in the values anytime soon. In order for prices to just come toppling down like everyone thinks is going to happen eventually, you have to have a glut of inventory. Like, that's what happens. When prices suddenly come down, it's because there's too much of an item and not enough demand. And that is the opposite of what we have here. And what's causing the shortage is the fact that everyone's got a low interest rate on their properties and they're not wanting to actually go anywhere. Because normally people would buy a property, hang on to it for a couple of years, and then go find something else. But because the interest rates were so low when they purchased or refinanced a couple of years ago, most people are sitting on like a 2, 3, 4% interest. And they're really not liking the look of the properties that they could get at this point if they moved. And so they're just holding on to what they have, and that's creating the shortage, okay? It's not rocket scientist. I know it's not the sexy algorithm or whatever where people like to point to a certain metric and say, well, this shows the market's going to blah, blah, blah. They don't know that, okay? Tell them to shut up. Seriously, they don't know that. Simple supply and demand. It is going to trump your over-the-top, complicated algorithm, metric, formula you've created every single time. So I'm going to say this to the day I die: supply and demand, supply and demand, supply and demand, supply and demand. Until we reverse that to where we have more inventory than we have demand, the prices are going to continue going up. And that's a good thing if you're looking to buy, because that means you buy something and the value is going to predictably be going up over time. I don't know about you. I wouldn't be buying an asset if I know there's a chance I'm going to buy it and the value is just going to be lost overnight potentially, and there's no stability there. So believe me, this is a good thing long term. You know, we can find something that's going to make sense and it's going to fit your budget, but you do need to be intentional in how we're going about doing this and not just hoping that something bad happens to the market. That's not a plan. If I'm a seller and I'm looking at this market, really what I'm thinking is this isn't the market we had back in 2020, 2021. We're going to have to actually do some work, and we're going to have to negotiate with some people, and we're going to have to make sure your home shows in its best possible light in order for you to get the top dollar market value for your home. If you're an investor, you know, I could do a whole video on this, but really just make sure all the numbers really do balance out. So this has been your market update talking about Eagle River. Hope it's been useful. It should go without saying, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, give me a call. Would love to help, and we'll see you next time.